that? You know, how can we remedy? Because, for example, have you ever gotten into a discussion and then it turns out what you believe in and then it just kind of got nasty real quick? You ever been there? And I don't care what side of the side you're on. Like, that is, the fact that we can't talk to each other, that's a scary thing. That's a scary thing. Like, for us, like, free speech is I can talk louder than you and shout you down, and then no. Because where's the love even in that? You know, how do we get better? What's the end result in that? You know, Jesus said a divided house, what? Falls. Okay, Lincoln can make that up. Jesus. Alright? Jesus said, a divided house collapses on itself. So how do we remedy that? Is there a way that we can? Now, I'm gonna be biased and tell you that, hey, yeah, God remedied that, and He knows, and I'm gonna show you how. And I believe I'm saying I'm biased because it's been used, proven, time tested. And guys, this is in Galatians. I got a verse here. It says Galatians 5, 1, 7, 8, 13, and 17. We're gonna read a few of these. And the idea with those is, now I want you to know what is a Galatian. First off, the person that wrote it is Paul. God was using Paul. He was a Christian terrorist. He was the one that was going around killing, hunting Christians. Jesus showed up in his life, and he went from the #1 Christian terrorist to the #1 Christian promoter in the world. Next to Jesus, God has used Paul no one greater than Paul. And God would use Paul to help these early churches out. And see, here's the thing. He would help these churches out because they would fall in two spectrums. They would float, because all of humanity for the entire history, we float into these two spectrums. The spectrums of liberty. We have more choice. We have more choices over here. But if we have all the choices possible and no rules, we have anarchy. And then on the other side, we have no choices. Now, if you have no choice, what is that called? That's called slavery, because you're not in jail. It's called tyranny, slavery. You have no choice. So the more freedom means more choices. But you can't go all the way, because if you're free to do whatever you want, that's chaotic, okay? Have you seen The Purge? Or the movie The Purge? That's The Purge. You just do whatever you want, kill who you want to kill, that's messed up stuff. But then this side, don't repeat it. You can't just over-regulate everything and just make rules and everybody follow, because that doesn't work. So there's this balance in the middle. There's this balance that we need to find. The Constitution's goal was to find that balance. And we have. And so the thing with God and Jesus, He was trying to get these Christians. Because Christians would float into two categories. You got these Corinthians people that overly regulate. They would be the opposite. The Corinthians were like, dude, do whatever you want. Jesus loves us, He forgives us. Man, do whatever you want. He doesn't forgive you anyways. This is awesome. Okay? Super. Let's do it. Alright? It's awesome life. And Paul said, no, you guys are crazy. No, you can't do that. You can't do it because you can't have that anarchy and live free, because you're a slave to your emotions. You're a slave to all these things that you think you're free from. No, you're not. And then the other side, it would be the Galatians. The Galatians were over-regulating everything. They made all these rules. You had to do this, you had to do that, you had to do this, you had to do that. And they were enforcing policies, not focusing on principles. And they were enforcing policies, and He's saying, time out, you guys are messed up. Look at the first verse. Can we go to the other one, not 13, 14, 5:1? Look at 5:1 and 7 and 8. He said that, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty by which Christ has made us free. Do not entangle again with the yoke of bondage. Say, look, God set you free. Why are you going to get all wrapped up all over again? And then He continues in 7. I'm sorry, I misspoke that. It should be Galatians 5:8. He said this, you were running well, things were going good. What happened? Who hindered you from obeying the truth? This persuasion does not come from Him who calls you. He's saying, look, what happened here? Because where you went wrong, that's not where God wanted you to go. What happened? And I would argue that I think they replaced principles with policies. And they were looking, instead of looking at principles and looking at God, they were looking for policies and trying to manufacture different results. And so over the last couple of weeks, I'm going to read these quickly, guys. We've been talking about liberty and really been breaking that down. I want to read a few of these. These, I believe I posted them on the back of your bulletin, because I'm pretty sure some of you guys would write these. So if you want to read them with me, you can. But I'm going to read them out loud. First off, I think that they confuse policy with principle by confusing liberty for freedom. They replaced liberty for freedom. And there's a big difference. Let's look at this. I'm going to read them out loud. Liberty in Christ is the fruit of faith. That's where it comes from. True liberty, we saw there that it comes from Him. True liberty is the fruit of faith. It is an external expression of an internal decision to make Jesus Lord. If you want to be not free, but have liberty, you only find it in one place, and that's Jesus. It's an external expression of an internal decision to make Jesus Lord. Let's read the rest of it. But look at the difference between freedom and liberty. Freedom So this freedom is the absence of something, and liberty is the presence of someone. So the absence of something would be, all right, we're going to take away the rules. Now you're free to do whatever you want. That's the absence of something. Or if you're in jail, we remove the jail cell. You're free from that jail cell. But just because you're free from the jail cell doesn't mean you're really free. Just because they take rules away from you or regulations doesn't mean you're free. And that's what people want. People want, look, I don't want these regulations that put the Bible out. I want to be able to do what I want, say what I want, marry who I want. I want to be free. Fine. But you'll never understand or find true liberty. And freedom is just nothing compared to liberty. And so keep on. He says here, liberty is, I mentioned that one. All right. Freedom is centered on one's self, while liberty is centered on a source. That's a big deal. We can go deep on all these. I'm going to go fast. You guys get that? Freedom is all about me. It's all about I get to produce. I get to call shots. Liberty is about declaring who the source is. And the focus is on source. Freedom, the focus is on self. Liberty, the focus is on the source. That's a big deal. Next one. Freedom is permission to live whichever way and be who I want to be. You ever heard of somebody talk like that? That's freedom. But look how awesome liberty is. That's freedom. It's just to live the way I want to live and be who I want to be. But liberty is the ability to live the right way and be who I was destined to be. That's a big difference. It's a big difference. And we're settling for freedom when God has liberty for us. Let's keep on going. Freedom can be taken away. If I can tell you what to do, I can tell you not to do, and I can tell you again what to do. If they give you freedom to do something. But liberty can only be given away. Liberty is only given away. It cannot be forcefully taken. We can give it. We can be coerced out of it. We can hand it over. And we have. Like Esau. There's a story in Esau that God had given them this birthright. If you were the firstborn, you were it. You were going to inherit all of the money, all of the wealth, all of the family business. Your relatives and your siblings would follow you the rest of your life. You had it made if you were the firstborn. And he one day was so hungry from working outside. He was so focused on self and being who he wanted to be and doing what he wanted to do. His brother, his next in line, was a good cook. And he was like, dude, I'm hungry. Give me something to eat. Man, no. As like good brothers and sisters, right? They love each other. And so, I ain't give you anything. And then he went back and like, man, and then, look, I'm hungry. And so they went back and forth, and he said, fine. I'll give you something to eat if you give me your birthright. Hold on, that don't make sense, okay? It's like saying, dude, I'll give you $1. I'll give you $1 if you give me $1 million. Okay? That's what he was talking about. I'll give you $1 if you give me $1 million. And he was like, I'll give you a bowl of soup if you give me a birthright. By the way, this guy that I'm talking about, Esau, he can cook, he can do his own stuff. He's too lazy. All about himself. He was looking for comfort. He was hungry and tired. He wanted to be comforted. So he said, fine. He gave his birthright away for a bowl of soup. Unfortunately, how sad we've done that. Over the years, especially over the last 100 years, we've bought into a lie. And we've taken a comforting, warm, wouldn't a nice warm bowl of soup be nice right now with the kind of chilly weather? We're so spoiled here in Florida. It like breaks 70 and we're like, okay? We're so spoiled. I was like, oh, just give me like a big bowl of chili right now. It's like 71. Oh gosh, get your sweater out, crank the heater up, right? And so, he was saying that, that's what he did. He's like, give me that bowl of soup, I just want to feel warm and cozy inside. And he just horrible, worst trade ever. Worst trade ever. And he had to deal with it the rest of his life. Unfortunately, we're doing the same thing. And then it brings back into context, Patrick Henry, his famous quote was, give me liberty. Why did he say it? Because it had been coercively taken and it didn't belong to them. And he said, give me what was mine and what is mine. So it brings that phrase into perspective. All right, moving on. Watch this. Freedom is rooted in policies and rules, but liberty is rooted in principles and relationships. That's false. Think about that one. I'm going to let you guys ponder these over the next week. Freedom is this. Check this out. Freedom is a license to satisfy my wants, but liberty is a calling to serve others' needs. Okay? That's what it is. It's not just a license to do what I want. Liberty is, what did I say? Liberty is the calling to serve others' needs. And then finally, freedom focuses on policies that divide, but liberty focuses on principles that unite. And so, guys, this is what God wants from us. He wants to say there is more to this life than just being free, because I have liberty to give you. I have liberty. I'm the one to give you that ability. And so let's look at this verse. So we saw verse 1 and 2. We saw, hey, God gave you liberty. What happened? You guys totally went off the rails. What's going on? And then he gives a remedy on how to go back. So honestly, we have done the same thing. Down this spectrum of total freedom and anarchy and all these rules and tyranny, we've floated more and more towards this. And sometimes we think that left and right are these, like, oh, this is the left and this is the right. But honestly, left and right has flipped its head. And we become left and right. And we become the two train tracks heading in the same direction. And so God is saying there's a way to turn that train back. There is a way. Watch, look at this. Galatians 5, 13, 14, and 15. Here's how the principle that can do that. Let's look at the verse. Galatians 5, I believe 5, right? 13 and 14. All right, there it is. 13 and 14. For you, brethren, my brothers, have been called to liberty. God gave it to you, you messed it up, but it still belongs to you. It's still your calling. It still is yours, even though you've given it away. You still have a right to claim it. And he says, only though, don't use your liberty as an opportunity for the flesh. The flesh meaning what you want to do. It's all about you. Okay? Don't do that. But through love, serve one another. That's the purpose of liberty, is love. That's how it plays out. That's how you spell liberty. You spell liberty with love. And then it says that for all of the law is this. Remember, what were these Galatians all about? Rules and law, right? They wanted to come up with it all. He said, look, you got one law you got to deal with. This one. That you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. And it can be an individual. And this is a phrase that Jesus talked about with the Good Samaritan. It was you had two opposing nationalities. And you had a Jewish person dying on the side of the road. Two government and official leaders didn't want to get dirty. And religious leaders passed them by. And it was someone that was an opposing, that they had racial tensions. And all of that. That person loved that person. He didn't ask him, hey, are you a Christian first before helping? He didn't ask him that. You believe in Jesus first? He saw a need. And he met the need. Regardless, because he was an individual, just like himself. And he would have wanted someone to help him the same way. So that is the law. But, look at this, really interesting. But, tell me if this doesn't describe our society. But if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another. Doesn't that sound like more what we got? We're just gnawing on each other and just feeding on each other. It's literally The Walking Dead playing out, okay, verbally, okay, on TV, all that. That's what it is, just gnawing, just munching on each other, okay? That's some gross stuff. But here's what I want to encourage you, is to make a decision not to play that game. Don't make a decision today not to play that game of just, fighting and I have to be right. Because you know what? Disagreeing is okay. Disagreeing is not necessarily discriminating. You can disagree with somebody and not discriminate against that person. Disagreement's okay because it's okay if it leads to good dialogue and good understanding of what are you talking about. And do you understand me? And let me try to honestly understand you. That is good when it comes to disagreeing because we can build stronger relationships. Not this, you're a jerk, and just kind of this boo-hoo whining all the time. That's messed up. And so you have to make a decision not to play this game. Let me tell you a story about my grandfather who made that same decision. And so he was one time, talking about the spectrum. My family's from Cuba, and my family, both my mom and dad, they met here in the United States. And my grandfather was living in Havana. He was pretty much head of the National Bank of Cuba at the time. Like, there was nobody above him. The only people above him were the military, the generals. And he was up there. He worked his way from the bottom, from a clerk, all the way to the top out of pure merit and hard work and grit. And so he was up there. And he saw when Fidel Castro came in and things started really getting there. He was in there for a few years. Not because he agreed with them. He was a part of the previous administration. One of the few to make it over. Because they couldn't get rid of him because he was just so good at his job. By the way, highlight, let me stop there, a little side note. He's so good that people don't want to get rid of you. Okay? Let me just throw that in there. Because my grandfather lived it. Okay? While other people were getting shot and killed and put on the streets, my grandfather stayed in his job because he was just that good. So no matter what you do, be the best at it. Because, hey, even if they hate you, God, get rid of you. It's like, it's like, oh my God, I need you that much. So that's what he did. He saw some things he didn't like it. And so he made a decision saying, look, I gotta get my family out of here. And you know what? I want you guys to understand this too. He was living nice. He was living nice. My grandfather, he told me, man, the best cars, he had access to it. Good salary, amazing. You know all he did for his job at this point? He just signed the checks. Signed everybody's checks. That's all he did. Who would love to get paid a six-figure salary just to do this all day? Okay? That's what he did. He got paid, huh? It was in the 50s. He got paid good. They had all the nice cars. They had a good life. If he would have shut his mouth and just been a good worker like he was, he would have been okay. But that wasn't good enough for him. Because he was seeing the ramifications. He was seeing what was going on. He said, hold on, this don't smell right. I don't like it. And he had two kids, my dad and my aunt. One was a baby, the other one was almost 9 or 7 or so. And he was like, they deserve better. They deserve better than money. They deserve better than this. And so he decided to try to go visit his family in Miami. And that was code for, this guy's leaving, and they picked him up in the middle of the night, and they took him to, my grandmother didn't know what happened. He just disappeared. It took him probably about 2 years to like a concentration camp. And it was like slave labor camp. And this is where they took individuals for their good. For their good. Because they needed to understand just how awesome the benefits were. So they had to put you through hell. So you can understand how amazing it is to live here. So dumb. And so he did that. He'd take us to the most menial job. They would take you out into the middle of the most fat mosquitoes like the size of your face. And they would go out there and they would just have to pick up sticks and move sticks from one thing to another. And I mean, it's just menial, just like demeaning work. Or another time he faked, he tried to get out, faked being sick or something like that. And they just sent him somewhere else. No, I'm sorry, he got sick. Horribly sick, almost died. And when he got better, of course, they sent you back. Okay, there you go. Oh, you haven't learned your lesson. And so they sent him back to another one. And when he got to the second one, he stood there, and he just saw men, grown men, crying their eyes out. Grown men. Just pathetic. Just broken. And he told me, he was like, when I saw that, he says, I made a choice. He was like, not me. That's not going to be me. That is not going to be me. And so he devised a plan and a scheme that same day to get out. And not only that, but here's the awesome part about it, is that he wasn't just so focused on himself. He actually found out a couple other people that were kind of feeling like him. And he said, look, let's do this together. Let's do this together. Let's go. Let's do this together. And they were able to coordinate. They found a trucker that was taking a lot of this stuff out there. They got him to leave a hole of the coal so that way they can hide in there. And they got somebody to dump the coal out there. And they just drove off. They didn't know if this guy, this trucker was going to take them somewhere and turn them in for cash. Totally could have. Understand that. My grandfather had 2 kids. And he was like, he would have rather died doing this than to sit comfortably getting paid and seeing all these atrocities go on. What he paid. And so he got in there. They let him out they were free. They got out. But they had to report back to a place. And so they ended up reporting back because if they found them, they would kill them on the spot. They reported back to this first place and they were like, all right, I'm going to see if you guys are really sick. They faked sick. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're sick. You guys ever fake sick? I used to do it all the time. I used to spin in circles in my stall at school to throw up so I wouldn't have to feel guilty about lying. Oh, I throw up. So I would literally throw up, make myself gag and throw up so I can go home. I hate it. I hate it. And so, anyway, so the idea was, I don't even know what I was talking about today. Okay, they faked being sick. And so they were like, all right, we're going to see if you're sick right now. If we find out you guys are sick, you guys are dead. Seriously, right now, done. You guys are dead. And they ended up finding, they thought they were screwed. They thought they were in trouble. And so my grandfather said, wait a minute, hold on. Don't one of you guys smoke? He's like, yeah. He said, give me your cigarettes. And so they took the cigarettes out and they took them out. And there was some lining on the inside. And so they kind of stuck all the lining inside their shirts, like in the inside, so you couldn't see it. And so when they went out there and they took x-rays out, and they didn't make the shirts out, they took the x-rays. And they just saw just this riddled, their lungs just riddled with all this blasting. Like, oh my God, get these guys out of here. Like, they thought it was literally, I guess Ebola today or whatever. They thought it was bad. And so they took them out, and you know what job they ended up having? They had to be the water boys for this garden where these women would go and tend the garden. But no one wanted to drink their water because they thought they were contagious. So it's just really funny. So they had the best job in the world. They just sat and drank water all day outside because no one wanted to drink their water. They thought they were sick. And so, but why I said that? Because that phrase stuck out of me. When he said, I saw what was going on and I made a choice. Not me. If I die, I die. But not me. I'm not going to play this game. I'm not going to be that, and I'm not going to play their game. Not me. And thank God that he brought him over here, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. And so, guys, I need you to make a choice. Because we got people playing games with rules. And we got people playing loose with rules. People trying to redefine things. People trying to just biting and fighting and devouring each other. You decide today not to play that game. And so I took this from my grandparent, my dad's house today. Chess is really interesting because you ever play chess? Anybody like to play chess? And so I'm horrible at it. I gotta learn. But the interesting thing about chess is that it's just constantly, and this is what I feel like we see. We have people in power, people in position, people in authority, people of influence, from celebrities to politicians to personalities, everybody. We got all these people, and then we got all of us, which are pawns. And the pawns are good for what? For sacrifices. The pawns only exist to benefit those in positions of power. So we got musicians and artists making a massive living pushing poison on pawns. We do. We have politicians, the same thing. We have politicians nice and living comfortable lives, playing games, lying to us. Whether it be Benghazi, the border, ISIL, ISIS, all that nonsense. Okay? Lying to us. Because they see us as nothing but this. And my encouragement to you is, don't play this game, because you were meant for more than this. Amen. You were meant for more than this. More to be a pawn in someone's game. Okay? Not you. You don't play this game. And how can you jump out? How can you avoid this? Well, we saw in Galatians, what did he say? What did he say? Let's go back to Galatians. Look at this. Galatians 13, 5:13. What did he say? What did he say about liberty there? You were called. Look at that word. What is called and implied? That means you were chosen. That means there's a purpose. There's a calling to you. There's a purpose behind your life. And your purpose is more than just being a pawn. Your purpose is more than just being a pawn. Let me give you this bottom line. Here's the bottom line for you guys for today. If you can forget anything, fine, but remember this, okay? I'm going to put this bottom line here. The bottom line is this, that God is... I'm sorry, I totally forgot the bottom line, so excuse me. Let me get my notes together. But the bottom line was this, guys. You want to not play this game. It said here, you are not responsible for how you were born, but you are responsible for how you will die. Think about that. That's the bottom line. You are not responsible for how you were born. Things just happen, and you got to deal with it. But you are responsible for how you will die. And really, that's how you will live until the day you die. And so that's what he's trying to tell the Galatians. They say, look, all right, where you are, that's fine. But you have a calling, a responsibility to live a certain way. You have a responsibility. You were born for more than this. Your purpose is more than being a pawn. And it's more than being the one controlling everything and being a player. You are responsible for how you live and how you will die. And he said there, let it be love. Let it be God's love, loving one another. Not focused on enjoying and loving the life we have. But it's different. And I got a video that I think will play this. Have you ever, this video is called Checkmate. You guys know what checkmate is when you're playing chess? Checkmate is when you have put your king, the opposing person king, in a position that they are helpless. Have you ever felt helpless? Talking about this, talking about politics and government and this and that, don't you feel helpless? Like, how am I going to do anything? How can you? I feel helpless. I feel like I have no move that I can make to get me out of this. But just because you might think you're helpless doesn't mean you're hopeless. Because there is a greater king. There's a greater king on your side. And I want you to watch this video. It's called Checkmate. And this is what I want you guys to do this week.
He's trying to trap me, you see. I'm not falling for it.
Has he ever trapped you?
You are ruthless.
Thank you. Hey. Do you play? I can teach you.
Don't get in trouble.
Come here.
There's no way out of this.
Over here.
There's always a way out. You can make it. We gotta go now. Now. Check me.
How did you do that?
He had a great teacher.
Those are Jesus' words. It's your book. And there's always a way out. You know why? Because even though, we're more than just pawns, we are sons and daughters of the King. We're more than just a pawn. We're a son and daughter of the King. There's always a way out. And so wherever, if you're feeling trapped, some of you guys might be feeling trapped and you feel like you're in checkmate. You don't have a move to make. There is always a move to make. And the move is towards the King, towards God Himself. And He will make a way where there was no way before. And so guys, my encouragement to you, if you want to just play and settle for freedom, I'm telling you, there's so much more. There are more moves out there for you to make. And so, again, what's the bottom line is I want you guys to understand that you are not responsible for how you're born. By the way, this is a great phrase. I can't take it. I saw this, I got this one from a movie, C.L. Bryant's movie, Runaway Slave. I got it from there. I got to give him the quote and give him props. But this movie was, this quote, you are not responsible for how you were born, but you are responsible for how you will die. And so here's my application. Here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to make this decision today. Make your move and make this decision. I have to take the life and liberty God has given me to pursue every opportunity to do good in a bad world and even love those who hate me. I'm going to say that one again. I have to make this decision. See, not me. I'm not going to play that game. I'm going to make my move. I am going to take the life and liberty God has given me and pursue every opportunity to do good in a bad world and even love those who hate me. Guys, you make that move today. Benjamin Franklin said one time, there's three kinds of people in the world. You got people that don't care about what's going on. You can't convince them of anything. You got some people that are interested in their, okay, they'll be open to some interesting stuff. And then you got people who will move, people who get things done. And if we have enough people who move, they'll move others. And if we have enough people moving others, then we have a movement. And if the movement is strong enough, we have a revolution. And now a revolution is not a revolt. You got to know anything about science. What's a revolution when it comes to a planet? It's when a planet or something orbits and comes back to the starting point. That's the true revolution, is to come back to the starting point, to come back to where our God is and who He is. So everybody.